What's up there, kids, coaches, parents, everybody else, dogs, other family members? Thanks for watching Snap Tackle Pod. I'm back. Mick Shaffer, KSHB 41. Dion Clisso is back of PrepsKC as we take a look at what the final regular season week in both Kansas and Missouri. Dion, here we are. We're here.
We are here, and it's one of those things. It seems like it happens fast. It does happen fast, and we had a lot of great games last week, kind of leading into this week, and we've got some just fantastic, games that really affect where teams are going to play next week as well. Decide conferences. So the last couple of weeks have really been pretty good, and this week's going to be another good week.
Yes. Thank goodness last week and this week will be good because there'll be stinker games for the most part the week after that. First round of the playoffs. Talk about that.
Especially on the Kansas side. I was looking at the brackets and trying to look ahead to where I might find a Big 3 game or a competitive game, and it's tough. It's tough. You got to find
even those
find some 8-9s.
A lot of times they don't pit kind of the middle of the pack against each other. A lot of times it's a really good team against a bad team because they played, different schedules and they're not weighted at all. It's all schedule based.
Yes, if you're sitting there at 8 or 9 or 10, and you're thinking, well, we'll get a 7, and then that 7 ends up being like St. James.
Right.
who's back on, beating people bad.
Two-time defending state champion.
Two-time defending state champion. So, it's not anything that I'm not a fan of the 116. Not that Missouri doesn't have their flaws too, and they're showing them well this year in terms of their district seedings. But it's the 116 thing is I hope that maybe that changes somewhere along the line, but I don't know if it will.
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. All right, let's look back on last week. Olathe North and Mill Valley, that was the big game, and it turned into a classic game and a wild fourth quarter. In this one, I'll get your thoughts on it. I was, of course, there and could tell you every play of the game. But Olathe North comes back with 2 pick sixes in the final 7 minutes of the game to turn a 2-score deficit into a 20-16 win.
Yeah. Well, that was a little stunning. It's a situation where there's some tip balls that found the hands of Olathe North, but hats off to them. They're
making a habit of that, though. I think that's the 3rd or 4th game where they've had. I think it's usually a Paris brother involved in all of them.
Yes.
I think 3rd or 4th game where they've had a pick 6 in the 4th quarter.
They did against Shawnee Mission Northwest early. I know that. I watched that game.
They did against Gardner as well.
Here's the thing. As unlucky as Mill Valley fans probably feeling like, oh, we had that game. At the same time, Olathe North's defense was in position to make plays happen. And that's kind of one of those things that it takes 2 to tango on that. I mean, unless you're just chucking the ball into the chest of somebody on a flat route, that kind of thing. It is a 2 to tango, and Olathe North's defense, which has been fantastic all season long. The only team who's put up points on them has pretty much been Shawnee Mission Northwest. And we'll get to that guy and that team here in a little bit. But it was a great game. And, Mill Valley has a loss now. And it seems like once they get that loss, they're usually pretty good after it.
Yeah, they won 8 straight last year after getting a loss in week 5, losing it this week to Olathe North. We'll talk about kind of maybe the ramifications in 5A and 6A as far as districts go and seeding for the playoffs here a little bit later on. The other big game pitting undefeated teams was on the Missouri side last week. Center and Pleasant Hill, and Center stated their case, right? That they're the best team in that league. The best team probably on that side in that class.
I'd say it's them,
and maybe overall here. Who knows?
Yeah, it's them and Kearney and Smithville in Class 4, and we've got nothing cross comparative to say. So I'm going to put those 3 together. Kearney's also undefeated. They got a good win last week. Smithville went to Pittsburgh and got a win, and Smithville's only loss is a 1-score game to Kearney. So Center looked very impressive, and Pleasant Hill is a really good team. That's a good football team. That's a team that could go as deep as the semis or maybe even deeper in Class 3. Of course, St. Pius and Maryville and Smithville or Savannah, those teams up north will have something to say about that, and the teams in their district. But they came out the first play of the game, the first series of the game, 3 and out at Pleasant Hill. They muffed the punt, so Pleasant Hill gets it deep in their own end. They score. So Center's down 7-0, and then it was on. First play from scrimmage. Joseph Vick hits a long one right out the box, and they score there. And then Ja'Cory Love was as impressive as anybody you talk about Malik Oatis and guys like that. Ja'Cory Love is as good as anybody in the Metro, and he had 5 touchdowns in that game
this year. 20 some, right?
20 some. Yeah. He was fantastic. And, hats off to Pleasant Hill. They scored 27 on him. They hung around a little bit, but it was 53-27. I mean, the game starts at about 45%. We all know about Vic and Love and even Armand Russell. I think it's DeAndre Prue as a kid that kind of their skill guys. The thing that impressed me the most watching that game was their overall team speed in terms of defense and flying to the ball. And Coach Hamilton from Pleasant Hill, we were emailing back and forth, and I said, "Hey, I said, tough loss." I said, "But they're pretty good." He goes, "Yeah, they're a lot faster than they looked on film." He goes, "We thought we knew their speed until they got out there." He's like, "They're really good." And that's the kind of the fun thing about that is that those are two coaching staffs that really like each other, like competing against each other. The head coaches are friends. And there's a great thing that Spectrum did this. They've been doing the last few weeks is if a coach will let them, they're miking up a coach and then putting together a little package.
So good, right?
I'm just sitting there
ago, and then they had Coach DeLong this week.
They coached along this week, and what it is I'm jealous is I don't have one time and two the skill to put together, and the footage to put together those kind of things. I'd love to do that every week and have that on our site. And hats off to Sean Belden and those guys over at Spectrum that do that. Brian DeLong, Coach DeLong is, he likes to play the kind of country boy like that, but he's a pretty sharp dude, and you can see it when he's talking to his kids and how he motivates his kids and how he does things, and it was really fun to watch. It was if you love football, that's a 3-minute video you need to go on Spectrum, go on their Twitter and watch that. It really gave you an insight to them, and I think that they're easy to root for in terms of what they do, and that's a good football team. That's a really good football team.
Well, he is country, right? Shout out
Russell. He is country. Oh yeah,
because he and Joel Appleby at Mill Valley played high school football together, and so both having success in the Kansas City area.
Yeah, no, they. I think DeLong was in a town that played 8-man. Then he moved to where Joel went to school. And I can't remember where they graduated from. They told me both before. It's down around Wichita, I think. And Joel was the quarterback, homecoming king, all the whole deal is what DeLong told me. He's like he was the guy.
Right. They were Russell, but yeah, DeLong moved from another town.
Yeah, DeLong moved from that 8-man town, and then they went to Russell, and DeLong was on the offensive line. So yeah, no, it's I don't know what they had in the water there at Russell, Kansas. Because did Martin go to Russell? Brandon Martin, or the Derby coach?
No, he was Valley Center.
Valley Center. Okay.
Yeah, so Brandon Clark.
Brandon Clark. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So no, there's some good coaches coming out of that area of the state, no doubt.
Yeah. No, absolutely. All right, another big one last week, Mid-Buck and East Buck, I guess a big one amongst smaller teams. Rivalry game. Mid-Buck was undefeated. East Buck, the defending champs. East Buck looked like the defending champs.
Well, and Mid Buchanan hung with them for a half. And when we talked with Coach Fritz last week, kind of previewing that game when he came on the radio show, he told us, he said, look, he goes, we're not the team we were a few years ago when they were just, hanging 50 on everybody. He goes, we've got to have the 10, 12, 13 play drives. He goes, we're much more, nothing against his team. He said, they'd won 7 games going to that. He said, we're just not as dynamic as they are. And he goes, we've got to do things to keep them off the field. And then they did in the first half. They were up 12-7 at one point, and then it was 14-12 at the half. Second half, they did not keep Trevor Klein that offense in check. East Buchanan really hit there, and that's what you see. What East Buchanan has is, yes, they've got really good players. That tailback Trevor Klein is as good as anybody. Quarterback does a really good job. They got good receivers. They have 60 kids plus in Class 1 in Missouri. I can go find you 3 or 4 Class 4 teams that are good that don't have that many kids out for football. So it's a you see in the second half where they just kind of explode on a team. A team will play them close for a half and then they explode on the second half.
Yeah. All right, let's get to it. As we mentioned, it's going to be the last week of regular season football in Kansas and Missouri, which means district kind of positionings here, both in Kansas and Missouri. So on the Missouri side here, is Lee Summit North going to be able to jump Nixa in Class 6, District 3? Because right now, the Broncos are in second place. Same record as Nixa, right? They both have taken a loss, but there's like 0.10, I don't know, whatever, away is Lee Summit North.
Okay, let's play this game. Lee Summit North has 1 loss. Nixa has a loss. They got it last week in overtime. Nixa lost to a 3-5 Class 5 Republic team.
Yeah.
Lee Summit North lost by 10 with a touchdown late or they scored a touchdown late. They lost by 10 to some team named Liberty North. Let's let Liberty North play Republic and see what happens.
Well, and then also, what about the other side? About the wins too? I can't imagine Nixa has the pelts of, a Blue Valley Northwest, a Ray-Pec, a Liberty, a Lee Summit West, and schools like that.
The issue that the point system in Missouri has in Class 6 is you can fatten up on Class 5 teams, and there's nothing that the point system can ding you for.
Really?
So you don't get dinged for playing down. So there's a lot of Class 5 teams on that. And not that Class 5 teams are, look, Grand Valley beat Blue Spring South. And those are both two very good football teams. It just, in this situation, and maybe it's just because it's in our area, maybe it happens in districts all the time and I'm not paying attention. This one just looks like, oh my, and Nix is a good football team, but I'm just like, that's why I tell people, I'm like, okay, let's take the teams that beat them and let them play. If Liberty North wanted to play Republic, they would hang 70 points on them if they just kept the pedal down the entire time. 70. I mean, I don't think Nixa comes within 2 touchdowns of Liberty North. I don't think they come in with 2 touchdowns of Lee Summit North, probably. But, if Lee Summit North has to get on a bus and drive to frickin' Nixa, maybe that slices that in half when they should be hosting all the way through their districts. Now, on the flip side, let's look at something else. Currently in Class 2, I think District 7, it's 6, I think it's 7 or 8. Richmond is the 1 seed by several points. Lafayette County is the 2 seed. Now, luckily, Lafayette County beat Richmond. That's their only loss. So Lafayette County sitting at 2 is in effect sitting at 1 because they'll get the bump because they beat them. But Lafayette County didn't play anybody outside of, I think they played a Class 3 team in Summit Christian. So they get a little bit of bump out of that. Richmond played Van Horn, good football team, Class 4. Marshall, bad football team, Class 4. So they get all these bonus points. So if Lafayette County would not have beaten them or somehow fell behind, maybe if there was a Macon team or somebody else out there who played up and we're sitting in 3rd, even though Lafayette County had beaten Richmond, they would, and were undefeated, would not be the number 1 seed. And I think Lafayette County is good enough to win a state championship, possibly. So there are flaws. I don't know what you do about Class 6. The play down thing. They get decided on the field, but home field means something sometimes. Not always in high school football. Good teams go on the road and win all the time. That's not an issue. But if you're Lee Summit North, the 3-hour bus ride to Nixa doesn't really sound like a good thing. But if you have to do it, you have to do it. So it is what it is. But I just don't understand. There's not the same Nixa does not play the same competition, and it's not even close.
Yeah. So Lee Summit North, am I hearing here that you don't think they'll be able
I think they can't. I think they can't.
Week 9 here.
They're playing Park Hill, and this is they're playing Park Hill. They've got a +13. The Park Hill and Ozark have the same records. That's who Nix is playing. They're both Class 6. Not that matters. Ozark's point number is 21, which leads me to believe their strength of schedule is a little lower than Park Hill, who's sitting at 24. So there may be just enough of a kiss if Lee Summit North gets a +13, because I'm pretty sure Nix will +13 Ozark.
0.12 points away from.
Yes. So there might be enough of a kiss with Park Hill's strength of schedule.
Interesting.
Maybe. I don't know. I'd love to sit here and tell you I would have time to sit there and do the points, for every school in the metro, all 80 of them on the Missouri side that I cover, but I don't. So I just have to rely on why that is. I mean, I'm not like the, say, Kearney fan who emailed me after week 1 that the points were wrong, that I'd gotten off of Misha. And, and I'm like, I don't figure points at home, guys. I don't do it. I don't have time to do that. So yeah, it's one of those things that, like, both sides have flawed systems. Unfortunately, I don't really see either side working to fix those flaws.
Right.
I think they're just kind of like, this is what we got right now. And they're just going, they're more fixing where teams slide in terms of class. They're more worried about that than they are postseason seeding. I'd love to see seeding, I'm kind of getting done with the every team makes the playoffs thing. Because we're seeing games that shouldn't be played. Over and over. Not as much in Class 6 and even Class 5 in Missouri, but I think I think in some of those situations, you could take the bottom two teams out of some of the, if you have 18 districts, you could take those bottom two teams, let them play each other the last week of the season and let the rest go on with their business.
Yeah. All right, moving on here. Oak Park and Fort Osage battle in Class 5, District 8. They're playing each other, but they're 1-2. How's that district going to shake out?
Winner gets the top seed. That's it. Those are easy. That's when they're great, when they're sitting 1-2 and they're playing each other. So
they are playing each other. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oak Park, Fort Osage are playing each other. It's one of our Remax Big 3 games.
Nice.
Green Valley, Raytown playing each other. Remax Big 3 game, very easy.
The other Class 5 there. Okay, good.
Yes, it's easy in Class 5. Class 6, the other Remax Big 3 game, we could hit them all at the same time, is Blue Spring South and Liberty. Decent possibility, depends on who wins that game, that they will just play each other again next week. I think if Liberty wins, there's a good possibility that's Blue Spring South at Liberty next week again. If Blue Spring South wins, it's probably Blue Spring South hosting Liberty. Now, if Staley were to lose to North Kansas City, that could, scramble things up a little, but we'll see. That Blue Spring South would need to, jump them, or Liberty would need to jump them. Liberty can't jump them because Staley beat them. So that's a little more entangled. But you will start with Fort Osage and Oak Park, where we started before. Great game. Two teams playing really good football. Oak Park has bounced back from that loss to Lee Summit. They beat North Kansas City. A Fort Osage team that did not look good early. They were 2-2. Really like to put the ball on the ground and throw the ball away and make mistakes. They're getting better. Their defense is really good. They really established a run game. And they played really good football the last 4 weeks. That's just going to be a knockdown, drag out fight, because both those teams want to play defense and run the ball and are two pretty talented teams.
Yep. Over on the Kansas side, Kansas Class 6A East District. Olathe North is going to be the 1 seed, but 3 teams vying for that 2nd seed. Gardner Edgerton, Olathe South, Olathe West, all of the Sunflower. Who's the best team? Who's gonna win it? Win that number 2 seed out of that district?
I'll tell you, Gardner and Olathe South are playing really well, but quietly Olathe West has put together a good run.
They'll get down, they'll come back, and they'll win games. I think they were 2-2 at one point, maybe even 2-3 or
were they 1-2 at one point,
and then they come back to have a 5-2 record here.
Yes, they played really well. All 3 of those teams are good. I don't think that there's any spot where you go. There's no. Olathe North is really good, but they're not so good that you're like, oh, I want to be on the other side of the bracket of them. So that whole 6A thing is going to be who's playing who's playing, matchup of styles, who's playing well at the right time. You still got Blue Valley Northwest out there, Blue Valley West. Those teams are all in a mix there. There's a Shawnee Mission North team that got off to a hot start, but then as their schedule got tougher, they've been, they're a team you don't want to play because they run flex bone like Gardner, and they're tough to deal with. So that whole 6A bracket looks great.
Olathe South plays Gardner Edgerton, so that game will decide itself. And then you have Olathe West taking on Shawnee Mission South. So Olathe West, you would think, would win that game, and so it's probably going to come down to points between the winner of Gardner and Olathe South and Olathe West to see who is that 2 or that 3 seed. It really maybe won't matter in the end, but a lot of parity, it seems like, on the 6A side.
Yeah, no, and it's fun.
And we haven't mentioned like Blue Valley Northwest and Blue Valley West, who are definitely probably going to be in the mix there too.
Yeah, and that's our talk Remax Big 3 game on the Kansas side. You got Bishop Miege and Blue Valley Northwest. The Kansas side, while everybody's playing, for district seedings head to head on the Missouri side, Kansas side, we've got a lot of 5 versus 4 and 5, 4 versus 6 games where it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt you head to head, but you want to get those wins. And Miege and Blue Valley Northwest, a team that won a title last year and a team that probably could win a title this year in Bishop Miege. And who knows, Blue Valley Northwest, when they get, they're as good as anybody. It's wide open. There's nobody on the, Derby, Manhattan looks good. But Derby's over there, but Derby's not infallible. How about a Lawrence Free State
team? Going to be better if they play Manhattan. They'll be better than the first time.
How about a Lawrence Free State team that's quietly jumped up? They they got a win over Lawrence last week. So
they did, and Lawrence is capable as well. They'll be on the west side. Gardner is now on the east. Back on the east
they came back when
they should be. I think.
I think the team that nobody really talks about over on the west side is probably Wichita Northwest. I think that's a team that you got to keep an eye on too. Yep. So
they've been a 5A power for years. Now they're up there in 6A and still winning tons of games. And quickly here in 4A, we talked about it. St. James, St. Thomas Aquinas, and Bishop Miege are all just scattered throughout that bracket.
Yes.
Right now they're at 4, 7 and 9, I think would be their seeds, just scattered there. And
Yes.
maybe they catch each other early in rounds, maybe they don't, maybe they're all quarterfinal teams or whatever. But that's a minefield if you're another good 4A team.
Well, let's stick in 4A and talk about our next Remax Big 3 game. Spring Hill, who's in 5A, playing Baser Linwood, playing Lewisburg, who's in 4A. Lewisburg's got the one loss.
Lewisburg's had a great season.
I think are they sitting the 2 seed right now or 3
They
seed?
are, I think 3. Sorry, they were the 5th because there are 2 7-0 teams, Atchison and Chanute. Chanute's on the east side. You got to remember about the Chanute kids, and they've won every game by 13 or more.
So and Atchison's played real well. And so Lewisburg's a really good team, but Spring Hill can compete with anybody. And they could rise up as high as 5 in 5A with a game, or fall as low as like 9 or 10. So those 2 teams are very motivated for Lewisburg to hold their spot and maybe move up depending on what things happen. Then our other Remax Big 3 game, you got DeSoto and Baser Linwood. DeSoto hanging on to that 2, breathing down the neck of Mill Valley for the 1, and Baser is sitting there probably at 6, I think, with the 1 loss. They're looking like they could move up and try and get some plus. They don't have as many plus points. They played a few more closer games, and it's for the United Kansas Conference title. So that's definitely one that both those teams want, and everybody's going to keep an eye on. That's what we've got some really good games on both sides of the state line this week.
Yeah, and over in 5A, like we talked about, it's going to be a battle of DeSoto there, and as Mill Valley plays Shawnee Mission East. And then you mentioned it, DeSoto takes on Baser Linwood. Right now, like 1 point separates DeSoto and Mill Valley, who have had just some battles. If you think about the last 3 years, Mill Valley's won state all 3 times, but 2 of those games, they're probably their 2 most competitive games. Most competitive games have been at DeSoto in 1-score games that have gone down to the final play.
Well, at least it looks like this year, if the things go the way I think they will, they'll probably be at Mill Valley for.
Mill Valley,
and it might be semifinals this time. Now that Aquinas has been your semifinal opponent, but it looks like maybe DeSoto. But there's some other teams out there that are going to have a say about that in 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Did we get all the Remax Big 3 games here?
We did get all the Remax Big 3 games. You want to talk a little Simone before we cut out?
Yeah, before we get out of here, let's chat Simone. Who's your leader in the clubhouse?
Malik Oatis.
Really?
When you put up 400 a week, it'll move you up the charts pretty quick.
What about the win-loss though?
Well, let's put it this way. The game they won last week against Shawnee Mission East, he had to play Wildcat quarterback because their quarterback was hurt. He had 39 carries for 406 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Wow.
So they put the ball in the hands of their best player, and he, led them to a victory. I think that says a lot about.
Well, they're 3 and 4. They're 3 and 4. They play Olathe to East. You'd probably favor them in that game. If they get 4 and 4, and then get in the 6A playoffs, I think they're one of those teams that's part of that parity, and could just win a couple games, make a run in the 6A playoffs.
You talk about the Olathe North defense. We want to talk about how good it is. They gave up 30-some to Shawnee Mission Northwest, and he had a big game against them. He had a big game against them.
Stopped has been Mill Valley. He had 25 yards rushing against Mill Valley.
Yes, so he's had 1 down game, but other than that, he's been fine. Sam Van Dyne
he's made up for it though with a couple 400-yard performances.
Yeah, I mean he goes.
Average goes out 400 plus 25 is still over 200 yards in those 2 games.
Yeah, he's averaging 200 yards a game, and he could have a big game this week as well, especially if they're running Wildcat. They basically ran 3 plays, and Shawnee Mission East couldn't stop him. You look at Sam Van Dyne, you look at Grant Stubblefield. Those are guys to talk about.
Stubblefield's been hurt by maybe not having as many wins as we thought Blue Valley Northwest would have at this point.
Yeah, that's kind of and plus teams are really keen on him too, and he plays in a pretty tough league. So those are the guys to keep an eye on there. At least up at North, they're kind of offensively. They play 2 quarterbacks. They have 3 running backs, so they don't necessarily have that one guy that would do it unless you want to look at like a Caden Green. If you want to talk about an offensive lineman winning, Caden Green is a guy to look at. Ray Peck's got a couple of receivers who've done really well. So those are kind of your leaders in the clubhouse.
Fontana, is it what Mac Armstrong's to lose?
Well, I think Ja'Cory Love and some people like that, or even Joseph Vick from center, are going to have something to say about that. Easton Rose, the quarterback of Pleasant Hill, is really good. So yeah, there's a lot of really good players out there, that are going to be Sean Carroll at St. Thomas Aquinas.
That'd be up for. Oh no, sorry, that would be Fontana. Yep,
Fontana. So yeah, there's the tailback at Odessa. I think is going into last week had more yards than Malik Oatis. I think he was sitting at about 1,600. Malik might have caught him. I have to check and see. I'm working on that right now.
You were talking about total yards. Malik catches, a lot of passes too.
He hasn't as much this year. They've been getting the ball to him. They're just straight handed off to him. They've had a younger quarterback, so it hasn't been quite as easy to get him the ball. That good young quarterback, that sophomore, I think he's gonna be a really good player. Yep. But he's hurt right now, and I'm not sure if he's playing this week. But Malik's, if he gets a 10th and 11th game, he could be sitting at 23, 24, 2,500 yards, depending on where he's at. So no, it's it'll be interesting there. The Buchanan is, I can give you 15 guys who are all worthy that you can't. Edric Hill, PJ Adebayo from North Kansas City, Caden Green from Lee Summit North,
Liberty North,
Melvin Laster, who won it last year. I mean, as a sophomore, Zach Darsh, the linebacker / quarterback from Blue Valley West. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there who can win that award. I think you look at the Bell, the BB kid from Piper is one to keep an eye on.
I think I know the BB family. I believe it's the final BB.
It is the final BB. It's the fourth and last one. So yeah, those are the guys there. And then receiver, I don't know, take your pick. Yeah, I remember it's been 6-7 years ago where it was like we had one guy with like 900 yards and we're like, oh, okay, I guess he's going to win the receiver. And this year it's like, which Power 5 recruit do you want to look at? Yeah, or just a guy, or the leading receiver from EA, his name's escaping me. Who's done had a really Cobbage is really yeah. He's had a really good year. Liberty North's got a couple kids who are having good years. The two Ray Peck kids, Manning from Lee Summit. I mean, pick who you want for that award. So all those awards, and we're going to really start heating that up here starting this week with some more stuff on the Simone site and of course our site as well. But no, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun run down the stretch here.
Can't wait. All right. Final week of the regular season coming up in Kansas and Missouri. Then we start playoffs next week and start chopping those fields in half and win or go home time.
Well, and I get to get out of the office a little more and go to games.
Cooler weather, although Friday it's going to be back to 80. Think about things here.
Yeah. So yeah, if you had practice on Monday and Tuesday, it was chilly, but by the weekend, it's going to be nice and warm. So no, looking forward to it. It's going to be a great week.
All right, Dion, appreciate the time. Thanks to you for watching as well. We'll see you next time right here on Snap Tackle Pod.